need transparency about the data. We need to know more about how the models work. We need to have scientists have access to them. I was just going to amplify your earlier point about local news. A lot of news is going to be generated by these systems. They're not reliable. NewsGuard already has a study, I'm sorry it's not in my appendix, but I will get it to your office, showing that something like 50 websites are already generated by bots. We're going to see much, much more of that, and it's going to make it even more competitive for the local news organizations. And so the quality of the sort of overall news market is going to decline as we have more generated content by systems that aren't actually reliable in the content they're generated.
Thank you, and thank you at a very timely basis to make the argument why we have to mark up this bill again in June. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Hawley for having this. I'm trying to find out how it is different than social media and learn from the mistakes we made with social media. The idea of not suing social media companies is to allow the internet to flourish, because if I slander you, you can sue me. If you're a billboard company and you put up the slander, can you sue the billboard company? We said no. Basically, Section 230 is being used by social media companies to avoid liability for activity that other people generate. When they refuse to comply with their terms of use, a mother calls up the company and says, "This app is being used to bully my child to death. You promised in the terms of use you would prevent bullying." And she calls 3 times, she gets no response, the child kills herself, and they can't sue. Do you all agree we don't want to do that again?
Yes.
If I may speak for 1 second, there's a fundamental distinction between reproducing content and generating content.
Yeah, but you would like liability where people are harmed.
Absolutely.
Yes. In fact, IBM has been publicly advocating to condition liability on a reasonable care standard.
So let me just make sure I understand the law as it exists today. Mr. Altman, thank you for coming. Your company is not claiming that Section 230 applies to the tool you have created.
Yeah, we're claiming we need to work together to find a totally new approach. I don't think Section 230 is even the right framework.
Okay, so under the law it exists today, this tool you create, if I'm harmed by it, can I sue you?
That is beyond my area of legal expertise.
Have you ever been sued?
Not for that, no.
Have you ever been sued at all, your company?
Yeah, OpenAI gets sued.
Huh?
Yeah, we've gotten sued before.
Okay. And what for?
I mean, they've mostly been like pretty frivolous things, like I think happens to any company.
But like the examples my colleagues have given from artificial intelligence that could literally ruin our lives, can we go to the company that created that tool and sue them? Is that your understanding?
Yeah, I think there needs to be clear responsibility by the companies.
But you're not claiming any kind of legal protection like Section 230 applies to your industry. Is that correct?
No, I don't think we're saying anything like that.
Mr. Marcus, when it comes to consumers, there seems to be like 3 time-tested ways to protect consumers against any product. Statutory schemes, which are non-existent here. Legal systems, which may be here but not social media, and agencies. Go back to Senator Hawley. The atom bomb has put a cloud over humanity, but nuclear power could be one of the solutions to climate change. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that you just can't go build a nuclear power plant. Hey, Bob, what would you like to do today? Let's go build a nuclear power plant. You have a Nuclear Regulatory Commission that governs how you build a plant and is licensed. Do you agree, Mr. Altman, that these tools you're creating should be licensed?
Yeah, we've been calling for this. We think
That's the simplest way. You get a license, and do you agree with me that the simplest way and the most effective way is have an agency that is more nimble and smarter than Congress, which should be easy to create, overlooking what you do?
Yes, we'd be enthusiastic about that.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Marcus?
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that, Ms. Montgomery?
I would have some nuances. I think we need to build on what we have in place already today.
We don't have an agency
Regulators.
that's working. Wait a minute. Nope.
We don't have an agency that regulates the technology.
So should we have one?
But a lot of the issues, I don't think so. A lot of the
Okay,
issues.
wait a minute. So IBM says we don't need an agency. Interesting. Should we have a license required for these tools?
So what we believe is that we need to
That's a simple
regulate.
question. Should you get a license to produce one of these tools?
I think it comes back to some of them potentially yes. So what I said at the onset is that we need to clearly define risks.
Do you claim Section 230 applies in this area at all?
We're not a platform company, and we've, again, long advocated for a reasonable care standard in Section 2.
I just don't understand how you could say that you don't need an agency to deal with the most transformative technology maybe ever.
Well, I think we have existing.
Is this a transformative technology that can
Yes,
disrupt
absolutely.
life as we know it, good and bad?
I think it's a transformative technology, certainly. And the conversations that we're having here today have been really bringing to light the fact that the domains and the issues.
This one with you has been very enlightening to me. Mr. Altman, why are you so willing to have an agency?
Senator, we've been clear about what we think the upsides are, and I think you can see from users how much they enjoy it and how much value they're getting out of it, but we've also been clear about what the downsides are, and so that's why we think we need an agency.
So it's a major tool to be used by a lot of people.
It's a major
right?
new technology.
Okay, if
we
you
think
build,
it'll be...
Yeah, if you make a ladder and the ladder doesn't work, you can sue the people that made the ladder, but there's some standards out there to make a ladder. So
That's why we're agreeing with you.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're on the right track. So here's what my 2 cents worth for the committee is that we need to empower an agency that issues a license and can take it away. Wouldn't that be some incentive to do it right if you could actually be taken out of business?
Clearly that should be part of what an agency can do.
Now, and you also agree that China's doing AI research, is that right?
Correct.
This world organization that doesn't exist, maybe it will, but if you don't do something about the China part of it, you'll never quite get this right. Do you agree?
Well, that's why I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a world organization, but there has to be some sort of, and there's a lot of options here, there has to be some sort of standard, some sort of set of controls that do have global effect.
Because, other people are doing this. I got 15 seconds. Military application. How can AI change the warfare? And you got 1 minute.
I got 1 minute?
Yeah.
All right. That's a tough question for 1 minute. This is very far out of my area of expertise, but
I'll give you one example, a drone. Can a drone, you can plug into a drone the coordinates and it can fly out and it goes over this target and it drops a missile on this car moving down the road and somebody's watching it. Could AI create a situation where a drone can select the target itself?
I think we shouldn't allow that.
Well, can it be done?
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Senator Graham. Senator Kuhn.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Hawley, for convening this hearing, for working closely together to come up with this compelling panel of witnesses and beginning a series of hearings on this transformational technology. We recognize the immense promise and substantial risks associated with generative AI technologies. We know these models can make us more efficient, help us learn new skills, open whole new vistas of creativity, but we also know that generative AI can authoritatively deliver wildly incorrect information. It can hallucinate, as is often described. It can impersonate loved ones. It can encourage self-destructive behaviors, and it can shape public opinion and the outcome of elections. Congress thus far has demonstrably failed to responsibly enact meaningful regulation of social media companies with serious harms that have resulted that we don't fully understand. Senator Klobuchar referenced in her questioning a bipartisan bill that would open up social media platforms' underlying algorithms. We have struggled to even do that, to understand the underlying technology and then to move towards responsible regulation. We cannot afford to be as late to responsibly regulating generative AI as we have been to social media. because the consequences, both positive and negative, will exceed those of social media by orders of magnitude. So let me ask a few questions designed to get at both how we assess the risk, what's the role of international regulation, and how does this impact AI? Mr. Altman, I appreciate your testimony about the ways in which OpenAI assesses the safety of your models through a process of iterative deployment. The fundamental question embedded in that process, though, is how you decide whether or not a model is safe enough to deploy and safe enough to have been built and then let go into the wild. I understand one way to prevent generative AI models from providing harmful content is to have humans identify that content and then train the algorithm to avoid it. There's another approach that's called constitutional AI that gives the model a set of values or principles to guide its decision-making. Would it be more effective to give models these kinds of rules instead of trying to require or compel training the model on all the different potentials for harmful content?
Thank you, Senator. It's a great question. I'd like to frame it by talking about why we deploy at all, like why we put these systems out into the world. There's the obvious answer about there's benefits and people are using it for all sorts of wonderful things and getting great value, and that makes us happy. But a big part of why we do it is that we believe that iterative deployment and giving people in our institutions and you all time to come to grips with this technology, to understand it, to find its limitations, its benefits, the regulations we need around it, what it takes to make it safe, that's really important. Going off to build a super powerful AI system in secret and then dropping it on the world all at once, I think would not go well. So a big part of our strategy is, while these systems are still relatively weak and deeply imperfect, to find ways to get people to have experience with them, to have contact with reality, and to figure out what we need to do to make it safer and better. And that is the only way that I've seen in the history of new technology and products of this magnitude to get to a very good outcome. And so that interaction with the world is very important. Now, of course, before we put something out, it needs to meet a bar of safety. And again, we spent well over 6 months with GPT-4 after we finished training it, going through all of these different things and deciding also what the standards were going to be before we put something out there, trying to find the harms that we knew about, and how to address those. One of the things that's been gratifying to us is even some of our biggest critics have looked at GPT-4 and said, wow, OpenAI made huge progress on.
If you could focus briefly on whether or not a constitutional model that gives values would be worth it.
I was just about to get there.